Hi, I'm Matt Eagleton. I'm the Chief of Vascular Surgery at the Massachusetts General Hospital, and I'm also the director of the Scientific Advisory Board for Centerline Biomedical. And I'm joined today by these two gentlemen, and we're going to talk about IOPS, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Frank?
Hi, my name is Frank Caputo. I'm the Vascular Surgery Director of the Aortic Center at the Cleveland Clinic. I'm also the Program Director.
I'm Satish Muluk, glad to join these two. I'm at Allegheny General Hospital as the System Director for Vascular Surgery.
Great. Well, welcome. We are going to be talking about IOPS today. What is IOPS?
Well, the letters stand for Intraoperative Positioning System. And basically, you might think of it as a way of navigating wires and catheters in the arterial system without using fluoroscopy. So there's no radiation involved, there's no need to inject contrast while you're using IOPS, because what you have in front of you is a three-dimensional map of the arterial system that's been generated from a preoperative CT angiogram, and that's also been overlaid on your patient on the operating table. And you can actually see where your IOPS enabled wire and catheter is at any time, and then navigate it through the arterial tree.
How is this different than, say, just using fusion overlay in your fluoroscopy unit?
Well, it's a couple of things that are different. Fusion overlay requires radiation, obviously, but on top of that, that gantry movement from one side to the other using the C-arm or the hybrid table, it really does lead to angles you can't always get, right? So by using the IOPS, you have the virtual gantry that allows me to really navigate the system, and it's actually very intuitive. So I think that's probably the biggest advantage.
So if you are only intermittently using fluoroscopy, what are you looking at as you do the procedures?
So when I'm looking at it, there's a workstation. So the one thing that's great about the IOPS, it's pretty agnostic. It's very usable for most tables. Some tables it's not compatible with, but for the most part, it's very agnostic.
Tell me about some of your clinical use for where you see this applying now, and then I'll ask you both to share that information with you, and also then tell me where you think it's going to have its applications as they further develop the technology.
Yeah. So right now, my clinical use is, if you look at the advanced aortic stuff we're doing, when we talk about cannulating branches, whether through a branch or a parallelograft for snorkeling, I find it very useful, particularly for hard angles that I can't reach with the gantry. My fellow's ankles really thank me for that. So like, but you know, and it really allowed, I mean, and renals or SMAs that you know are going to be hard pre-operatively from the CAT scan. You know, you do your Aquarius recon and you look at the angles and you need an RAO of 90 and on these patients that are 300 pounds and you're like, uh-oh. And so, but you can do this all through the IOPS, and those are the patients I find most helpful. But I also find it extremely helpful in mesenteric occlusive diseases. I find it, as long as they have a little bit of a lumen, I mean, that has helped me tremendously, as well as renal occlusive diseases. So.
Great. Satish, what's been your major application of it?
Pretty similar. I think we all know cases that are just going to be difficult to access the viscerals or the SMA or the renals, and it's the overweight patient, the patient that have bad angles, calcium, things like that. IOPS, fortunately, is relatively unaffected by a patient's body habitus or sharp angulations, because they're not relevant in the IOPS world, where you can modify and manipulate the image as needed. So all of that's really nice.
Wow, that's impressive. So you all mentioned that at some point this helped us reduce radiation. We've spoken on that a little bit. How about time? Speed up your cases at all?
It's hard to measure that because you know, we haven't done a real rigorous comparison. But my instinct, my sense is that we've definitely reduced time, because I've, at least in my own experience, that those initial catheterization steps can be very time consuming, especially the need to put the C-arm in various steep obliquities and move patients, move staff around so you can accomplish that. If you can eliminate those steps, you save a lot of time.
Frank, what's the learning curve with the technology? Easy to use? Take a little bit of time to do that? How number of cases until you're really feeling comfortable?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely a system that does require some use to the IOPS ballet of getting everything attached to the table and everything. And that's really just getting your staff educated and up and running, and with the proper support.
Has Centerline been supportive and helpful with
Oh yeah,
regard to that?
every case is supported. So they've been excellent with that. And it's really literally, the key is, I think probably, I would say 10 cases, to where you're facile with it. And you really, um, get a feel, and just overcoming the fear of not using radiation. I think we all are going to have that innate fear. Take the training wheels off a little bit and just use the IOPS for a bit. And I think, 5 cases for that, and then 5 cases to really get used to the technology levels.
As we've spoken about, I got exposed to IOPS through its development as a potential tool in use. Can each of you tell me how you got involved with IOPS and how you know that it was available?
Yeah, when I joined the Cleveland Clinic, I was asked to help get involved with. Actually, I started off with the structural heart stuff with the IOPS, and I just thought it was unbelievable technology, and I was really interested in. I'm definitely interested in aortic surgery, which we all are, and I'm interested in trying to make it safe for me so I can live a long life. So I think I saw that, and I know Centerline and their team was working on it with the aorta, so I jumped right in. I thought that was a fascinating technology.
Now, Satish, you're not in Cleveland, so how did you hear about it and how did you get involved with
That's
it?
right. I'm about a couple hours from Cleveland, but the way I heard about it was one of my partners learned about IOPS at a meeting, and I honestly can't remember which meeting it was, but he and I both have an interest in trying to reduce radiation exposure for the patient and for us. Once we heard about it, we thought this was something that we really wanted to pursue. From there, it was quite a journey to get our hospital to agree to a trial and ultimately to purchase of the system, but we're certainly glad we went through all of that.
Hey, Frank, I know that you've been involved with IOPS because of the research that's being done at the Cleveland Clinic with regard to this. But Satish, you mentioned it was a little bit of a hurdle to get this into your hospital. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and some of the concerns that your hospital had and how you overcame those concerns?
Absolutely. I was able to very quickly get buy-in from our department chairman and other clinicians. But getting buy-in from administrators is a different ball game altogether. Obviously, they're focused on money and income expenses, those kinds of questions. And there's no question there's expense involved here. And unfortunately, it's not reimbursable yet. But I think the argument that ultimately convinced them was the idea that this had enormous potential and that it was something that our hospital as a quaternary care facility really wanted to be involved with at the ground level. And I think ultimately that was the argument that really convinced our administrative leadership that this is something we ought to do.